Hello, everybody. It's OV True Crime. I'm going to do a quick mic check because last time I did not, and that was uh, turned out to be a little bit of an oopsie. So let me refresh my feed here because apparently the delay is very real on this. Let's see. Nope. Still says a while before it starts. Ooh, that's a big delay, guys. All right. We'll work with it and we'll figure out how to fix it. If you hear loud revving in the background, there's something. Oh, voice check's on and working. Um, so if you hear loud revving in the background, that is my computer. Something I'm doing on it is causing it to flip out and go very loud. Um, I don't know. Probably because I'm forcing it to do some extra stuff that we have not done yet. But that's okay. It'll be fun. So tonight we are going to talk about two things. Originally, I was only going to talk about the movie Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile. That was the movie that Zac Efron starred at. Let me try that again. Zac Efron starred in. I don't know why that's such a tongue twister for me, but that's the movie that Zac Efron starred in, where he portrayed Ted Bundy, and the movie was sort of based off of the book that his ex-girlfriend, Elizabeth Kendall, not her real name, wrote. I have not read that book. I might put it on my list. I don't know. I've got a very extensive list of books that I need to go through. And I've already read 2 Ted Bundy books, so I don't know how much more information I could get out of her book. But she wrote it, I believe, soon after he was executed. I think the book came out in the early 90s. I could be wrong. It could have been the early 80s before he was executed. But Liz dated Ted Bundy for around 6 years. And the movie, Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile, it sort of starts at the beginning of their relationship and it moves through the relationship up until he is convicted of the final crimes and sentenced to death. My initial problem the first time that I watched the movie was that it was sort of slow paced and it really kind of just glossed over most of the victims. We know he killed over 30 for sure. That's what he admitted to. That's what they have evidence on. They suspect he killed more. How many more, we'll probably never know. There's always been the suspicion that he killed someone when he was a teenager, that he probably killed a young girl, but they could never tie it in. So I gave the movie a second chance because the first time I was very bored with it. I didn't like how they glossed over all of the victims because I felt like that was kind of a disservice. And my first run through, I also felt like it humanized him too much. But I sat down today, I gave it another go, and it's better the second time around. Now I understand why they did it the way that they did it. It is important to humanize these people because they are not scary monsters that are inhuman. They are people who are lacking some integral part of humanity, and they do terrible things. But even though they do these terrible things, they are still capable of putting on the facade of being normal, loving partners, parents, members of society. So the second run through, it's still kind of slow paced for me, but I do understand why they did it the way that they did it. Still wasn't very impressed with the movie. I kind of, for me personally, I don't care very much about their home life and their relationships because it's all fake. You know, these people are incapable, as far as we know scientifically, of truly loving and caring about others. So, showing them doing that, they're like actors in a play. And I was kind of disappointed in it, but I mean, for what it is, it's not bad. So I actually have the trailer. Let me turn down my volume on my monitor. So I actually have the trailer. So we're gonna watch that. Actually, first of all, here we go. Let me flip us over. So this is Ted Bundy and Elizabeth Kendall, not her real name. She has used a fake name since she came out in the 80s after he was caught and convicted. Even though she's appeared on camera and written a book and done some other things in the media, she's always preferred to keep her name a secret. I don't know how that works once your face is on film, but you know, whatever, we'll respect her privacy. So that's Elizabeth and Ted Bundy. Just a normal couple picture. He's looking at her lovingly. She seems very happy. You know, it's crazy to think that at this period, he had already started to kill people. So let's flip over here to the trailer for extremely, shockingly wicked, evil, and vile trailer. This trailer. So let's watch this and let me know if it's too loud. I worked on the volume earlier. Hopefully it is not too loud for you guys.
Do you remember the night we met?
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have been witness to the unspeakable horrors of the defendant's heinous crimes. You have seen ghastly injuries, smashed in faces, broken jaws.
Will the defendant please rise?
For years, I've carried this guilt that I'm to blame for everything. If only I hadn't trusted you.
Promise you'll never leave me, Liz.
It's about another missing girl, isn't it? Ted, did you do it?
No.
We've got a very disturbed, sick individual.
You'll be the first nationally televised trial in history.
You look nice, partner.
I'm disguised as an attorney today.
I get very scared, but, you know, he's also really dreamy.
There are things you don't know that will shock you beyond your worst nightmares.
It's all a lie.
It is a capital murder case, and you are skating on thin ice.
This is about catching a monster.
I wish I could take it all back.
What about me? I love you. Get out!
The killings were extremely wicked, shockingly evil, vile.
Did you do these things, Ted?
This is all gonna end.
It's only gonna end with the truth.
So basically, you just saw the whole movie in the trailer. It's, I believe, an hour and a half long, but there's a lot of filler. Watching the trailer basically gives you the idea of what the whole movie was. Zac Efron did a good job. I can't hate on his acting. He did a very good Ted Bundy. They did a really good job. Some of the scenes were directly taken from actual footage, news footage of Ted Bundy. The judge complimenting Ted Bundy was real. The judge was very nice to Ted Bundy for some reason. So yeah, it's an okay movie. Probably not the best Ted Bundy movie, not the most exciting serial killer movie. It was okay. Kind of disappointed. But then I found out that Liz and her daughter were part of a an Amazon docuseries, where she talks about, and her daughter talks about, their life with Ted Bundy. And that would have been okay. But the thing that makes it very good, and I'm only 2 episodes in, but the thing that really pushes it over the top for me is they focus so much on the victims. And unfortunately, when it comes to serial killers and true crime, people like to focus on the murderer, and they'll talk about victim counts. They may mention a few of the victims, but the victims tend to get brushed over. It kind of makes sense because when you've got 30 plus dead women, expounding upon all of their lives can take a long time. But this docuseries did so good. Again, I'm only 2 episodes in. I think there's like 6 episodes total. But I have just been mesmerized. Once I'm done streaming, I'm actually going to go probably finish the series out tonight. I'll probably stay up all night if I have to. It's that good. It is not just a documentary about Ted Bundy. They talk about Ted Bundy, obviously, but it's very much about Liz, her daughter, the victims, and it goes into the politics and the gender politics at the time and how that had an effect on things. You know, in the late 1960s, early 1970s, there was a huge cultural and sexual revolution happening. You know, women were going from homemakers to businesswomen, and people had feelings about that, as they do about any great social movement. And this docuseries does so well in painting a full picture, not only of Ted Bundy and what he did, but the time that he did it in and how that helped contribute to what happened. It also does a beautiful job of painting a picture of his victims. It's going in chronological order. It will talk about a victim. Liz will come in and talk. The victim's family and friends will come in and talk. And it's not just like your average true crime interview. They really do a good job of humanizing these women and making them feel like fully fleshed out people. A lot of times when you watch an interview of a loved one talking about a deceased family member or friend, shows don't really do a good job of going like all the way with making them seem like a human. They generally kind of tend to come off as, oh, this person, this was their name, they did this, they died. But this docuseries, the way that they interviewed the victims, the family members, and the friends, because some of the victims did survive. Some of his earlier and later victims, they did survive. And so far I've seen one, his first living victims interview on there. But they do such a good job of really making these women seem like full people, not just a number, not just a face, not just a victim. It separates them from Ted Bundy, which I think is another issue. I know if a loved one of mine was murdered, I would hate that their name would forever be tied to their killer, because in a way that's another way that the killer gets control over the victim. I mean, you're dead, but even in your death, anytime your name's mentioned, it's going to be connected to the person that killed you. This docuseries is so good in just separating. Like, yes, they were killed by Ted Bundy. However, before that, this is the person they were, and this is the life they led. And these are the people that were left behind. Absolutely fantastic. Probably, so far, one of the best true crime docuseries, documentaries, whatever, that I've seen. And much like all the other true crime fans, I have seen a lot. So I'm really excited to keep going and see where this goes. I think it's going to get better as it goes along. They also do a really good job of intersecting. Like I said, they'll intersect Liz's and her daughter's story with the victims. They give a good timeline and they give lots of photographs. They have maps, which is always helpful for me because I'm terrible with understanding distances and directions. But they actually show a map of like where Ted Bundy lived, where Liz lived, and then yes, I did dye that shit. But they do a really good job on this series of showing you on the map like where Ted Bundy lived, where Elizabeth lived, and then where the victims lived. Because I didn't realize two of his earliest victims lived in the same neighborhood as he and Liz. It makes sense because a lot of time, closest is easiest and they want to kill in areas they're familiar with. But I didn't realize it was just like a few blocks either way to his first two victims. Thank you, Key Lothaniel. I don't know which one you are, but thank you. It was an accident, but it was a happy accident. We are Bob Rossing it and just saying, you know what? Happy little accident. So I've got the trailer here for the Falling for a Killer. It is called Ted Bundy Falling for a Killer, and it is on Amazon Prime. So on Twitch, apparently, if you have Amazon Prime and your viewers have Amazon Prime, you can do a watch party for Amazon Prime shows and movies. But I looked into it because I thought about doing it because I think having a watch party for this would be fun and cool and it'd be nice to have people talking about it. But it's only on desktop. So if you watch Twitch on mobile, you can't be a part of the watch party. I don't know. Oops, okay. So if I can get that figured out, that'd be awesome. I'd love to have a watch party. So I am going to pull us over first to a quick interview that Elizabeth, Liz, and her daughter Molly, I don't know if that's her real name, I'm assuming not, but a quick interview that they did with Good Morning America that sort of talks about their life with him a little bit. And then I will flip over to the Ted Bundy Falling for a Killer. So let me switch this up here. So here's the interview they did.
It was the story that captivated the nation. Ted Bundy, the notorious serial killer who admitted to kidnapping and murdering dozens of women across the country in the 1970s. During that time, living a double life with his unsuspecting girlfriend, Liz Kendall, and her young daughter, Molly.
You were a single mom. You went out to that bar and you saw
Can you let me know if this is too
a handsome
loud?
man. Tell me about when you first met Ted Bundy.
Well, I was pretty smitten right from the get-go. I saw him sitting at the table, and I went over and talked to him because I told him he looked lonely.
Is it fair to say, at least at first, that Ted Bundy was a gentleman?
Oh, completely. Put a lot of energy into making us happy, doing fun things. My parents loved him. He was just really it, in my opinion. And I really wanted to marry him.
That relationship now chronicled in the new Amazon docuseries, Ted Bundy, Falling for a Killer.
She was sick of the story focusing on Ted, was sick of the victims not being portrayed as fully formed human beings.
Liz and Molly opening up to filmmakers for the first time about their connection to the killer, sharing never-before-seen pictures and videos.
When Ted started acting differently towards me, he laid down with his head on my lap and just sobbed. He told me that he had to tell me something that I would probably be shocked about.
Kendall, who wrote about her suspicions about Bundy in the book The Phantom Prince, discussed the moment coworkers showed her a sketch of a murder suspect they thought resembled her boyfriend.
And there was just something about the jawline or something like that that made me think, wow, this is really weird.
Did you think he was capable of murder?
No.
I mean, I still believed he was innocent at that point.
But their belief in his innocence would eventually fade. Liz remembers signs of Bundy's dark side.
Looking back, obviously hindsight is 20/20. Were there any red flags?
We'd been rafting down a very cold river. I was sitting on the edge of the raft and he pushed me in just quite violently. I grabbed a hold of the rope that was dragging behind the raft so that I could get back in, but his eyes were they just got really weird looking, and it was like he couldn't see me anymore.
You saw his eyes change.
Absolutely.
The murder I think that you felt most connected to was Bundy's last murder, an abduction of a 12-year-old, Kimberly Leach, because you were 12.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to find words for how devastating it is, the loss of this girl and the things that he did to her.
I know you've asked yourself this a million times. Why do you think he spared you?
Whatever transpired at the beginning of his interaction with my mother put her in a different category, and I think our placement in his life kept us safe. People knew he was involved with us.
Yeah, so Liz and Molly say eerily the reason why they think they're
So that's just a short little interview they did. I like it. I like that. I'm sure as painful as it must be for Liz to talk about all of this, she is. I think it's interesting to hear from the partner, because a lot of times when someone's partner or spouse does get accused of these crimes, they just sort of vanish, which is understandable. It is 100% like understandable and makes complete sense that if that happens and you were in a relationship with that person, you just want to disappear off the face of the earth. I don't blame these women for that, and they don't owe us an explanation or their story. While it's interesting to hear, they don't owe that to us. But it's nice that Elizabeth and her daughter are speaking about this. I know that the daughter, Molly, she also wrote a book. I don't remember the name, but she wrote a book. And in it, she kind of talks about how, in hindsight, she saw some things that maybe should have been kind of a clue. So next we're going to watch the Ted Bundy Falling for a Killer trailer. It kind of gets right to the point. It tells you exactly what it is and what to expect. It is so good. If you have Amazon Prime, watch this. I love it. I can't wait to finish it. So we're going to switch over, and we are going to watch this little trailer. And it's only 2.5 minutes. I know I've been playing a lot of videos, but they're good. So this is the trailer for Ted Bundy Falling for a Killer.
This story has been told many times by men. Now's the time to talk about our own story from beginning to end, because we lived and so many people didn't. It was a liberating time.
Women have a fundamental right to control their own bodies.
And we don't want to be sexual objects. I want to have the right to be a human being.
I was the first female television reporter in Utah.
There were no other women in my police academy class, but I didn't let any of that stand in my way.
You're starting to feel like you can do anything, and all of a sudden, you get walloped.
It just stopped us in our tracks. Whoa, here we are, and girls are disappearing.
What happened here? There were dozens of theories, and there were very few clues.
It was my first night that I went out dancing in Seattle. He said his name was Ted.
We were like a family.
I just didn't think he could do these things.
Ted Bundy.
Ted Bundy.
Ted Bundy. Smile, Ted.
Women like us, women that have been attacked, women that are survivors, they keep their secrets to themselves.
But not any longer.
I fell in love with him from day one, but there are all these coincidences. I couldn't let it go.
Well, it takes a great amount of courage to turn in someone whom they're involved with.
After he was arrested, he wrote me many, many letters. We started life together. No goodbyes, just I love you.
A lawyer's dream is to represent somebody on death row. I had joined forces with a guilty and remorseless killer.
Ted Bundy wasn't a Charles Manson type person. He was the guy next door. That moment, I realized how so many girls went with him.
I feel like speaking out because women's lives are still secondary to men, and
somewhat expendable. My daughter's
What'd you
missing.
do with the bodies? Disappearing.
A little girl was murdered.
I'm hoping that this is the end of anything related to Ted.
All right, pause this. And let's flip it back over. So yeah, that was the trailer. Another thing that it mentioned that I also really liked, it even talks about the female agents, the police officers and the detectives at that time, and what it was like for them to try to integrate into a male-dominated field at a time when there's a serial killer out and they're trying to catch him. It's one of the best. I think that's accurate. So I highly suggest you watch it. Amazon Prime. I don't know. It came out in January, so it should be on there for a long while. I think the Ted Bundy, Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile is going to be on there for a long time on Netflix. I don't understand how Netflix does its things. I know, like, American Horror Story is leaving in October. If you're an American Horror Story fan, get it while you can, because it won't be on there for much longer. Alright guys, so it is 9:07. I am going to finish up the stream tonight. Sorry I had to cancel yesterday. That was because I couldn't figure out how to get my YouTube video sound to work on OBS. It wouldn't play the sound. But we figured it out. Took some Googling, took some playing around with, but we've got it. So tomorrow we will be doing a Throwback Thursday. We are going to have a case from the early 1900s. I've got some good information. I've got some old timey newspaper clippings. So yeah, tomorrow's Throwback Thursday. We're going to cover an old case. Friday I will be back for True Crime News. Saturday is Serial Killer Saturday. We are doing Wesley Allen Todd. And then Sunday we will do a Just Chatting. So barring any other complications, which there should be none because I think we've got them all ironed out, I will see you guys back here tomorrow at 8:30. Thank you for stopping in. Stay safe. And go check out the Ted Bundy Falling for a Killer documentary on Amazon. Bye guys.